So I'm just going to start by asking you to tell us your name and a little bit about what you do.
My name is Robin Gilpin, and I'm a ceramic artist. I don't necessarily call myself a potter because I don't just make pots. I make little sculptures. I think of them more as sculptures than pots, but it's important to me that they all have a function. I like the idea of somebody getting up every morning and using one of my mugs to drink their coffee out of, and that it's actually used in someone's everyday life or sitting around on their counter and that type of thing. But I throw mugs, mostly mugs, bowls, butter guards, different various jar-like forms, and then I sculpt them to the point that they do not look like they came off the potter's wheel. I learned how to throw pots 23 years ago when my daughter was born, and I worked very hard to be able to throw a bunch of something that all matched. Like I could sit down and throw 100 mugs that all looked the same. Now I don't do that anymore. I got kind of burnt out on it, and I didn't do pottery for about 15 years.
Wow.
And my daughter grew up, and I was Girl Scout, den leader, and hiking and camping and horseback riding and working a normal 9-to-5 job, that I didn't do pottery for 15
What made you
years.
decide to come back to it?
My daughter was 20 and in college. My son was 33 and out traveling around, and I had more time. I had time.
Are the things you are creating nowadays different from what you originally started working on?
Vastly, because I don't try and sit down and make things all the same. As a matter of fact, I'll sit down to throw mugs and I'll go, ooh, these are looking too much alike.
I have noticed each of your pieces is very unique and has its own personality. How do you come up with ideas for the creatures and creations?
I don't really look at anything anymore. Each piece kind of takes on its own personality. Like I don't try and make all the eyebrows the same or all the feet the same. I just start, and I might go in with an idea, like some of mine have a unibrow, and I'll say, okay, this one's going to be a unibrow, and I'm going to have his eyebrow coming up over here. But when I'm done, that eyebrow's actually dropped down low, and this one's coming up. They kind of just evolve and become who they are. And sometimes a mug will actually end up being a hanging planter, because I'll throw a piece and I don't just add to it. I reach inside and I push and I expand. So what looks like might be an 8-ounce mug might end up holding 12 to 16 ounces. I'll put their teeth in, and then if you really had teeth that big, your face would be like sticking out over here. So I'll start pushing out over there until it emerges. Sometimes something will happen, like I'll poke my finger through, and then I have to add to fix that because I've already put 3 hours into this mug, and he'll end up with like a big scar right there or something. So then I've started adding scars. So they just kind of evolve.
So how did they start?
They started out as kiln gods, which a lot of people might not know what a kiln god is, but you make a little sculpture of just a little something, and it doesn't have to be a monster, and you set it on top of the kiln. When you fire the kiln off, it protects it.
Okay.
It protects it. So I had these little cups that I made into like little kiln gods, and they all sat on top of a wood kiln. I was firing with a group in New Kent, and they got kind of brittle. They weren't really fired, and I said, oh well, let's just put them all in the kiln. And that was a salt firing, so you throw salt in there and it makes a glaze on them. And when they came out, I went, and so I just started making some on purpose. Do I have a favorite one? Right now, yes, I do have favorite ones right now, and more of them are being that way. I like them when I have an eyebrow that goes way up. Those are a little bit harder to make because when you turn them over, they're not flat. I've started making bigger ones, and then I'll put a jar inside of a jar and sculpt it so it looks like they're a totem pole. But when you take them apart, they're way more wonky. They're way more animated. I like ones that look like they're moving. And I've started doing tentacles.
Ooh.
And so sometimes they're, using their tentacles like Austin Powers. You know, I'll try and make the tentacle look like he's going like that.
Okay.
So yeah, the tentacles I like, and ones that look like they have a lot of movement.
Anything else you'd like to add that I haven't asked about?
No, I can't think of anything. Just I've got a lot of work. I also do work other than the little creatures. Right now I'm doing a lot of owls, and again, I've been experimenting a lot, and I have them on my Facebook page right now. They haven't been finished, but as with everything, I go overboard with sculpting and carving and sgraffito. But and I take special orders.
Well,
too.
you mentioned some of the techniques that you use to create them, and that it takes quite a bit of time to create one. What is your process when you're making one of the mugs or one of the creatures?
So first thing I do is I throw them and I trim them so they're round on the bottom, and then I start sculpting them. So sculpting each piece takes me, depending on the mug, but on average 3 to 5 hours, depending on the size and the complexity. And then I stain them with an underglaze wash, which is just, I take a black underglaze, water it down, and then I wipe it off so it goes in all the little cracks and the little warts and the pimples that I put on them. I don't hand paint anything on them. I actually spend a lot of time staining my clay body. So each pimple that's added on there is a color. So I'll take a little blue ball and put it on, and then I'll take a little yellow ball and put it on top of that, and then I'll take a little tool and I'll push in to make an indentation. So every little pimple you see on them took 3 steps to put on, and I think that's what takes the longest, is putting all their little warts and their scars and their horns and their feet. But I'll use 3 or 4 different clay bodies, and then I have yellow, blue, purple clay bodies that I've made from mason stains. And then I bisque fire them, I stain them, I run them through the kiln again, but only to like 200 degrees to set that. And then I dip them in a clear glaze, and I put a color glaze on the inside, fire them again, and then take them out. And now I've ordered gold luster, so I'm going to start putting a gold tooth on a few of them.
We can't wait to see those.
So I usually fire at least twice, and by the time it's all said and done, I probably have 4 to 6 or 7 hours in each piece. I've started adding found pieces to them. So I've got a mug that instead of having like 3 legs, he's got a wheel in the back. And then I found these cute little oil cans at a salvage yard. So they have oil can ears or head on top of their lid, and springs, wine goblets that have big coils on them. They're on my Facebook. I've sold
great.
most of those.
Yeah.
I think I have 6 more springs.
Okay. I'm sure they go pretty quickly.
So yeah, I'm always thinking of new things.
Great.
And I don't think I'll run out of inspiration for the monsters. What was it I recently found, and I posted it on my Facebook, and I'll try and send it to you. Some deep sea worm, and he's gross. He's round, like that big around he looks, and he has these awful teeth. It's just gnarly. And he's got a tail that looks like a plume, and it's got all these beautiful gold on the edges. And I went, oh, wouldn't that make a great monster tail? So I'm going to be making monster tails that look like that.
So if somebody wanted to purchase them, where would they go? Where is the best place for them to see and find your work?
The best thing right now, because I don't have a super large online presence, is to like my Facebook page. And on my Facebook page, I have posted, it's Big Cartel, and it's kind of like a store where I don't have to do my own webpage. It's Big Cartel Robin Gilpin Ceramic Designs. And I've got a store. It's kind of empty. It has pictures of my hanging planters and it says coming soon. And I hope to have that open by May 9th.
Great. Well, I look forward to seeing your work.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for taking the time to come out here and talk to me. We look forward to seeing your live demo at our virtual festival.
I'm going to do a live demo of probably throwing or sculpting.